All right, so we are going to talk about angle relationships today. So first, I would like you to pause your video and write down these vocab words. So you'll need to pause your video at this point and write them down. And then you will also need to pause your video at this point and write them down. Okay, so what we're going to do is use this diagram to name each figure. So we're going to look at two acute angles. So first I'm going to give you an example of how we name an angle. So we're going to name an angle using 3 letters. Okay, so an acute angle in this picture we could say is angle AED. So here's the symbol for angle. It looks like a squished L. And then you would put 3 letters. You could also call that DEA, but you want your center letter, so like E is the center letter in this angle right here, you want your center letter to be in the center. So you can either call it AED or DEA, but E should be in the center regardless of what you call it. Okay, so then we need another acute angle, one more.
BEC.
BEC, correct. So angle BEC is another acute angle. Okay, an obtuse angle. So you might have to combine some together. Yes.
Do we make like a unsquished L for obtuse?
No, it's all the same for angle. That's a good question. Hayden?
AEC.
Okay, so angle AEC is an obtuse angle. And then what's another obtuse angle?
BED.
BED. Okay. All right, so then we're going to look at for a pair of complementary angles. Complementary is equaling 90 degrees. Yes.
ADE and BC.
Okay, so I'm going to switch your letters around there and say AED because you want the center letter to be in the center. And then BEC, that would make 90. Okay, and then a pair of supplementary angles. So 2 angles equaling a straight line. Kanan?
Wait. Okay. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah.
AEB.
Okay, AEB is a straight line. Yeah, we're going to have 2 of them though. AEC, I just heard. And which one would go with AEC?
BEC.
BEC. Okay. All right, so I want you to pause your video and try this one. And there's only one pair of supplementary angles. Okay, so 2 acute angles. What would be one? Isaac?
Angle DEC.
Okay. Isaac?
Angle BEC.
Okay. All right, 2 obtuse. Grant?
AEC.
And anybody have another obtuse? Go ahead.
BEP.
That one's 90. So we gotta be bigger than 90.
I had AED.
Yeah, there's only one. I messed up. This should be one. And this should not be one. I'm sorry if that threw anybody off. Okay, a pair of complementary angles. Complementary pair. Kaden.
BEC.
Okay.
And then CED.
BEC Okay, and then 2 pairs of supplementary angles. Yes.
AEC plus CED.
AEC plus CED, correct? Anybody see another pair?
I had AED.
But that's only one angle. You gotta have 2 angles. That is 90 degrees and or 180 degrees. I agree with you. But we're looking for 2 angles that go together to make 180. Yeah. AEB and DEB. Yeah.
VEB?
Or you can reverse that. That's fine.
I was talking about all of it. Alright.
BED would be 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's what this one is. AEB and DEB, or you could switch the letters and make it BEB. It'd be the same thing. Okay, so now we're gonna look at actually solving the degrees in the angle. So we are going to kind of look at each angle and try to figure out the missing angle. So if measure, so that says M angle 2, that means measure of angle 2. If the measure of angle 2 is 75 degrees, we need to find the measure of angle 3. So if you look, those are both lying on a straight line. So what would they have to equal?
75.
A straight line is
180.
180. So angle 2 plus angle 3 would have to equal 180 degrees. So if angle 2 is 75 degrees, how would we figure out angle 3? So 75 plus angle 3 has to equal 180. And I just heard subtract. So that means that angle 3 has to equal what?
105.
105 degrees. So this has to be 105 degrees. Okay, so then we need to find the measure of angle 4. So how would we figure out 4? Subtract 105 from 180. So angle 3 plus angle 4 has to equal 180. And we know that angle 3 is 105. So what does angle 4 have to be? 75. Angle 4 would have to be 75. And it doesn't ask this, but what does 1 have to be?
105.
105. And all together, those have to equal what? 360, correct. Okay, so I'd like you to try this one. So you'll need to pause your video and do this problem. Okay, so if the measure of angle 3 is 114 degrees, find the measure of angle 2. So can somebody share what they did? Yeah. Subtract from what? 180. Okay, so 180 minus 114 equals what? 66 degrees. So the measure of angle 2 is 66 degrees. And then we need to find the measure of angle 1. It would be 114. Okay. And then angle 4 would be what? 66. Okay, so you have a couple more vocab words to write down. So if you could pause your video and write these down. Okay, so if you would pause your video and write down the last vocab word of vertical angles. And And then the other part of this is, so there's a lot of vocab in this chapter, and we actually will have a vocab portion on your chapter test, just like you would have like an ELA, like a matching vocabulary portion of the test. Just a heads up, okay? Because there is so much vocabulary on this in this chapter. Okay, so we have 2 more problems left. So an artist is designing a section of stained glass window. Based on the diagram, what should the measure of angle ECF equal? So we're looking for ECF, and the only information given to us is this little box, which means what? Right angle, and that ACB equals 32 degrees. So if ACB equals 32 degrees, DCE would equal what?
32.
32, because those are what we call vertical angles. Those 2 angles are directly across from each other, so that's a vertical angle. So if DCE equals 32 degrees, how could we figure out ECF? Yes.
Subtract a right angle by the 30 degrees.
Okay, so subtract it from 40 degrees, or 90 degrees, sorry. So what would you end up getting? 58. So angle ECF would equal 58 degrees. Okay. All right. The diagram shows the intersection of 3 metal supports on an amusement park ride. Based on the diagram, what should the measure of angle CBD equal? So this is telling us that EBF is 62 degrees. Altogether, this is 90. So how would we figure out ABF?
90.
90 minus 62.
90 minus 62, which is what?
28.
28. So this would be 28 degrees. And then what would CBD equal?
28.
28, because those are what kind of angles? What's the special name for them? Vertical, because they're directly across from each other. They are vertical angles. Okay? All right, so here is your assignment.
Like a whole piece.